Do you ever ask yourself, a really simple question, but are you happy? It seems like such a simple statement. Are you happy? But it's not. And it's such a funny one because happiness is probably rare to be happy all the time. But you certainly can start taking it a little bit easier on yourself with running in mind. And you'll be able to find happiness within that. And I read a beautiful, beautiful quote. I actually DM'd Ronnie O'Sullivan about it, the snooker player on Instagram. And it was, I basically put so much pressure on myself that I sucked every bit of joy out of snooker. And it really hurt me. I mean, hurt me. I was in tears. But it hurt me because I thought, kid, you did that, You did that for the last probably 5 years of your professional running career. You sucked every ounce of joy out of it. And it's supposed to be fun. And it's supposed to be about making yourself better than yesterday, process over outcome, enjoy the journey. But somehow we turn it into something it does not need to be. So it might seem really silly that at the beginning of a long run video, I'm asking you, are you happy? I'm asking you, have you lately checked in with yourself and thought, am I happy? Am I happy with where I'm at in life? Am I happy with my balance with work and life and all these things? But it actually matters when it comes to performance, where that sort of happiness is. Alright you guys, so I talk about it enough, the importance of a good, strong long run. It's funny that I talk about it a lot, but I don't get my ass out the door to do it. I entered Copenhagen Marathon. It bought me some time. I needed time, but then I found myself getting lazy again with the long runs. So today, nothing strange, nothing startling, 15 mile, just at a decent pace. It's going to be in that sort of zone 2 area. I know everybody raves about it, but it just makes it a decent, solid run. I'm going to fuel the run with about 100 grams of carbs in gel form, and I'll be roughly taking on about 10 grams every 10 minutes, which if you do the maths, it comes out roughly about that. But I'm going to get stuck in. I did do some drills, some stretching. I think if you do, or you have the time to do some drills, some stretching, it just means that you can sort of get into the run a little bit quicker. You don't sort of have to like jog out the gate. I also think you feel a little bit better. We're not going for super shoes today. I've made a really serious case for why in a previous video, but I think it just gives the legs maybe a bit of callus, a bit of strengthening. But then I also just think you feel really good then on race day when you throw the super shoes on. But let's get stuck into this long run. All right team, that's a good chunk of a run, probably 14.5 miles, all in that sort of zone 2 area. It's a real hot talking point. But let's talk about why you might want to keep the long runs boring for a little bit while you build that volume, and then where you might go. And so today, it might seem boring, but you're almost trying to let the run make you tired rather than you adding intensity, you adding pace, or you trying to add something sexy to it to then perhaps make you tired, right? So try to let the run make you tired versus I'm going to add in some intensity, I'm going to add in some tempo, some intervals. At first, get that volume in a good place, and then you can start to add to it. So this is the bottom layer of the long runs, and they are going to get sexy, and they are going to get more marathon specific, but for now they just have to stay a little bit boring until you've built that volume. But let's talk about it. There was one vote on the previous video to keep the beard, and so for now we've kept the beard. I'm joking, there was quite a few votes, and they were sort of, keep it, shave it. The beard is either shaved or it stays. There's no in between. There's no trim. Once I trim, it'll upset me that I trimmed it and I'll end up just shaving it off. So what I'm going to do is in 4 days time, I'm going to race. 3 days time, 4 days time, Thursday, Armagh 5K, 13th of February. You can vote below for some kind of consequence if it goes a certain way, or if it doesn't go a certain way. I'm leaning more towards if I show up, I can keep the beard. If I don't show up, I have to shave the beard. I'm definitely going to show up. For once in a long, long time, I'm genuinely quite excited about racing. Less about the big end result and more to just get stuck in and test the fitness and be surrounded by other people cracking on trying to achieve their goals. You can go watch Armagh 5K if you're local-ish. And we're going to jump back to the video, but remember the way you can support me is like, subscribe, do all those lovely things, comment below, or if you want, check out 262clothes.com. But let's jump back into the video. Today won't be the sexiest run you've ever seen in your life, but it's just a decent solid day. If you're training for a marathon, you likely need a lot more solid days like that. When I ran 209, and I don't really want to go on about that and on about that, but we did a lot of days like today. In fact, we probably did 3 to 4 times a week a run of 10 to 12 miles, similar to that sort of effort today. We certainly didn't make a big fucking dance about it. We certainly didn't make a YouTube video about it. That was just a solid day. It wasn't a session day. It wasn't even the long run day. A run like today is going to build from 14 mile to 16 to 18 to 20. Just because I'm doing this for, the psychological benefits, I'm still entered in a marathon. I'm still likely to get very excited and competitive over the final 8 weeks. And we're sort of 13 weeks to go. But if I can make the most of these next 5 weeks, I know the training will pick up with 8 weeks to go. So the goal for these next 4 or 5 weeks is to just get that long run up to 20 miles in a safe enough way. The other reason why you build it up slowly like that, and you don't go for the sort of sexy stuff first, you build that long run in a way that the first time you expose your body to, say, a 90-minute run, and it's the first time you've done it in a couple of months' time, you get a lovely benefit. And then the second time you do a 90-minute run, you still get a benefit, but not the same as that first time. So if you build it in a nice way, 90 minutes, 1 hour 40, 1 hour 50, 2 hours, you're getting the most out of each of those. And then when you sort of tap that out, maybe you've got yourself to 20 miles, you've got yourself to 2 hours 30 minutes, etc., then you can add in some sexy stuff. That's when you might push the pace of the final sort of 10 to 20 minutes. That's when you might add in a little bit of tempo in the middle of the run. Or on a day that you're feeling good, you might just add in a bit of a progression and push it a little bit. Do not be afraid to push it. But I think get the benefit first from just building that volume, and then also keep the injury risk down by doing it in a nice, sensible way, and not just going straight into lots of tempo in the long run or intervals in the long run, especially if you're only adding those things because you found it not as stimulating to just do the run. That's where you have to sort of be careful. So let's jump into today's video. We're discussing my long run, and we're just going to go through how this is going to build over the next lot of weeks towards Copenhagen, what some of the goals are, leading into Copenhagen, why am I doing it? Normally I'm doing a marathon to try to qualify for a big event, stuff like this. And I kind of want to catch people up with not necessarily what I've been up to, but where the channel's going, what these next lot of weeks are going to look like, what's the purpose and all of that, and just give you guys less of a this is a real educational type video about the importance of a long run, and more why am I doing things the way I'm doing them, what am I building towards, what would I love to achieve in Copenhagen. So if you're interested in that, let's get stuck into that. Shortly after I ran 209 for the marathon, which is extremely rare that you run that fast, and it's so incredible. But actually, I was in a really tough sort of like spot in life at that moment in time. And so back then, I was really struggling with life, and it was shortly after running the 209 that I eventually asked for help, that I started sort of working with therapists a bit more regularly to get help. This is not a sponsored video at all. It just will make sense when I talk about goals and ambitions. And yes, today we are talking about long runs. And yes, today we will talk a little bit about the YouTube classic of Zone 2, but only because it makes sense to the part of my journey that I'm on right now. And I wanted today to get back to a video where I talk about where life kind of is right now, what my sort of goals are, what I'm hoping to achieve when I go to Copenhagen in 13 weeks time, and then how it all fits in with using running in a way that it makes your life better, getting the absolute most out of training, but making sure that running is nothing but an asset to life. And sadly, running has the power to be this asset, but it also has the power to be crippling, extremely crippling. And so if you start to let running overwhelm you, if you start to let your goals, your ambitions become a bit too stressful, you end up a big anxious ball of not a lot of fun. And where that can kind of go then is that you might have actually done the hard work, you might have the fitness, but you've let yourself get so stressed out by it all. You're so anxious, you're so stressed. What do you think happens with the human body in a state of anxiety? What do you think happens to the human body when it's stressed? but you're out there trying to achieve something. Well, I'll tell you what happens when we're stressed and we're anxious, we get all stiff. To perform at your absolute best, do you think you can do that being all stiff and stressed and anxious? No, you definitely cannot. So I'm in a different spot now. I sort of said, I think it was on Instagram that, I'm running, by myself around Belfast. I'm not trying to do that hero 209, 208 type training that I was before. It would probably lead to me feeling a bit burnt out right now. I'm probably really burnt out from that side of the sport that got me all anxious and all stressed and this sort of stuff. And I'm probably, if you've not noticed on the channel, the happiest I've been for such a long time. True happiness that comes from being proud of the life I'm building, the work I'm building, the 262 stuff with the brand, it's phenomenal. The community of support that I've built on YouTube. What can I say? What more could I possibly ask for? But I use running to support all of that. And if I run twice a day, it's because I felt the need to get out again for my head. Not just for I'm going to get really fit. That's a lovely byproduct of that. But actually what's happening is I'm just learning to enjoy running for what it is. And it's such a great support mechanism to everything else you've got going on in life. So we're not going to compare anymore, right? So I am going to build the training in a lovely way. I do want to go to Copenhagen and achieve the best result I can for the input, which, sounds like I'm deflecting the topic of what do I want to run. I would love to run, 2 hours. I really put myself on the spot now. I'd be so chuffed with getting back to sort of around 2 hours, 12 minutes. I think with shoe development, I think with the development of fuel, I think with super fast courses, that possibly could happen. But I think it's more likely, and I've learned the hard way with running, that if you're not quite all in, it's actually still extremely difficult to run 2:14, 2:15 for a marathon. We're not talking about what could I potentially run. If everything was in place to achieve that, we're being very honest and fair about our reflection about the input that I'm giving to the likes of Copenhagen Marathon. And I hope, I've been doing the newsletters once a week. If you haven't signed up to that, you can, 262clo.com, scroll down the page, there's a little email sign up. You'll notice every week things are getting a bit better, both in terms of fitness, but then also just in that motivation to do the work that it takes to get a bigger result. I've just hired a staff member at 262clo.com. That takes a lot of pressure off me. I can focus on the training more. That's why this week's training was a bit better than last week, because I wasn't in the office doing the work as much. I still have goals. I still have ambitions. I am really hopeful that my anchors in the running world, which is Bashir Abdi, Gary Locke, these guys, I really hope they go to Font Remo later in the year, maybe August, September, October. And I know that's a place that I can go, really put in work, and then possibly try to achieve one of these really big performances. I'd still love to do that. I still think I'm capable of doing that. But you can't always get the most out of your body, and you don't always have to. A lot of this, me not trying, I don't want you to be disappointed. I'm still running 80 mile a week. I still buried myself on the track yesterday trying to keep up with the younger kids. I'm still putting in work when I'm out there. I'm just also really enjoying building these other things in life and building myself a future, right? That's a job for life. That could support myself, that could support my family, that could support my family's family if things went really, really well. And so that's the chapter that we're sort of in for this little bit of time. But I still have faith that the motivation will come, and I'll be excited about pushing and trying to achieve, bigger and better things. So I'm going to try document once a week the training. I know this was a bit more of a everything that's going on sort of video, but the long run went well. When I said it was going to be boring, it actually didn't sort of turn out boring. I felt better than I thought I was going to feel. Towards the end, I didn't get as tired as I thought I sort of might get tired running at that sort of decent, steady effort. That will build in a nice direction, and then we'll add in the fancy stuff. The tempo stuff's going pretty good, but we'll make sure once a week we're talking through how the sort of fitness is progressing, have my goals changed, etc., etc. If I end up booking a random altitude camp, are we starting to think about 210? we don't know until we sort of see how the weeks pan out. I try not to predict the future too much, and I try to, at the minute, just be present and do what we're supposed to be doing right now. I hope that is good for you guys. That's all I've sort of got for you today. I wanted to do a bit of a catch up. I'm really enjoying the run at the minute. I'm going to race in 4 days time, I think it is, Armagh 5k. Yeah, and I hope that goes really well. I don't know if we add in a little thing about the beard linked to the race. You can comment below, let me know. Is it a time goal? Is it a will he start? And if I don't start, shave the beard. We need to sort of think about that. But yeah, have a look on 262clo.com. There's some really great items on there, some amazing sort of testimonials, that sort of stuff, good feedback. And like, subscribe, do all those lovely things. And please do take care and keep pushing yourself. And I hope the sort of training towards your goals is going really, really well.